LS, speeding on the railways. Yes, my train engineers did speed, by the way. Like I said, Lucifer Star here, as you know. Well, no, it's not true. Yeah, I look like a crazy person. But speeding on the railways. Yes, they did quite a bit. Like I said, believe it or not, if you go back to about 1800s, 1700s, if you look at the old reports, there was speeding on the railways. My engineers, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit of the drinky. Like I said, personally, I didn't really like a lot of people be like he's drunk, blah blah, and I'd be like, well, can he walk straight? Can he run the engine? Like I mean, like I said, I'm a really good boss. I was just like, and that's why sometimes you would have one silver guy and one. And one drunk engineer, so we'd do that sometimes. Sometimes in the old days of railways, of LS railways. If I had a drunk engineer, sometimes I'd be like, well, you're hired. They would grab somebody and be like, and they would just put them with the drunk engineer. So, because the drunk engineer knew how to run the train and everything else like that, and he could just go like, anyway, no, but there was also speeding on the railways. Like I said, every corner, you have to know how fast to go before you get to the corner, before you take the corner, and with those old big trains. And so there was speeding on the railways sometimes, because sometimes people would be late, and usually I would, well, and the trains were kind of narrowly close together. They like one time going through one of the places, the trains. I think we were moving like equipment or something like that, but the trains were literally 15 minutes apart, no more than 15 or 5 minutes apart. Whereas like, where they're like all going down that way. I forget what we were moving, supplies or tanks or something like that. But they're about 50 minutes apart. But going around a corner though, there was a lot of speeding on the railways. People would try and hurry up to make their next stop. I mean, because a lot of shoveling and stuff like that, and that's why the stopwatches were so critical. And it's amazing the system works so well because that's why a lot of the old stopwatches were gold and everything else, because I supplied the stopwatches. Number one in mining, LS, and so a lot of stopwatches were gold, and there are of course also shell stopwatches, real pearl shell, oyster shell stopwatches. There are a few of those where they put in some of these other places, and maybe even a jade stopwatch. I'm not exactly sure. I did some exotic things. Occasionally, the people would do some great task or something like that. So I believe there might be a jade stopwatch and a shell stopwatch. But the most common was, of course, the gold stopwatches and silver stopwatches. And and believe it or not, like I say, depending on how long you worked on the railways, you would either get, after so many years, you would get a new stopwatch every couple of years. So you'd get like a silver stopwatch after so you'd get a silver watch for like junior years, so like 15 years on the job, and then like a gold stopwatch for being on the job like 30 years or something like that. You get a real gold stopwatch. I like to treat my people really well, and there's also gold cufflinks as well. You would get the gold, like the uniform for one of the old engineers was basically a gold stopwatch and gold cufflinks as well. And there are a few of those. Probably should be a few of those still left around. LS. You should be able to. Well, I think they probably melted them down, but it was L and S. LS. Lucifer Star. Star. Yeah. Sorry, I shouldn't say it without it being all weird. But yeah. Anyway, though, but a few train engineers did speed, and of course there was accidents. But there's accidents anyway, and sometimes we'd find that the guy was drunk or had a little bit too much to drink, or had drunk. Anyway, like I said, I didn't really worry about it too much, and that's why we always had two engineers. At least one of them was probably going to be sober. Actually, a lot of those trains, you would actually have three guys in there because they would take turns. There was no one guy going, "Arr, arr, arr, arr." Usually you would have like three or even four guys. Sometimes I would have four people to a train, like the big heavy duty, like 1,000 horsepower trains. You would have four people all up in there. One would be taking a shot or drinking a tea or a little bit of tea or something, and one would be shoveling, and then they relax and rest for a minute, and then the other one shovels, and then the other one shovels. So with four people there, sometimes I think they even had five shovelers. One guy to run the train. So anyway, though, a lot of the old days. Anyway, but there was speeding on the railways, and and the cows too. That's another reason why you need five engineers. Besides the fact that a lot of people will try and run up and go, and then they try and get on the train, and then they take the train or whatever, and try and steal the train or try and take the train somewhere or try and do something weird with the train. Like I said, some people would just jam it forward and jump off or something like that. Anyway, there's a lot of weird stuff with accidents. Like I said, there's always an accident investigation, and we'd always investigate the accident the best we could. The German investigations were the most thorough, of course, and the Irish were pretty thorough though. Although it was probably just like, usually the Irish were just like, it's an accident, we know what happened, but don't worry about it. So it's like, I gave the a lot of people would know that I played favoritism with some of my groups. Like I love the Irish. I absolutely, I really love the Irish, and because they're reliable. The Irish were reliable. I mean, you ask an Irishman to go to Mexico and build a water pipeline. You ask him to go to New York and build the tallest building in the world, and he gets it done. I love that. So I really favored them quite a bit, and and of course the Chinese and Japanese, I favored them as well too, because they were innocent and they were so good, and they were like little sponges. They just soaked up information, and they would work so hard for everything. And like I said, when I saw 150,000 people all working in unison, that when I saw that, I was like, okay, these are my guys. Because they just had it. They had unity like you wouldn't believe. Anyway, but this is about speeding on the railways, and they did speed. There was a lot of speeding and all that, and driving a little too or chugging along a little too fast. Like I said, though, I mean, in the old days, you would shoot off a gun or put a flag out. There's a couple different ways. You'd put a flag out by the railways, like a little cone or a flag, on the train, and the engineers would know to stop. Of course, they'd always kind of crouch down, and it's like, are they going to come out? Are they going to come out? Are they going to come out shooting, or are they going to walk out? Because sometimes they would get the train to stop, and then they would try and raid it. And we had our problems back in the old days where trains sometimes became ground zero for shootouts a lot. And I mean, we always got the train back, but that's not the point. A long history of LS, but I loved it how my people would do stuff. Like they'd be like, well, Margaret comes down every day, every Thursday, and she hasn't come down in 2 weeks. So they would get some volunteers, and they would go up and they would find go to Margaret's farm to see what's going on up there with Margaret, and they would sometimes find that she's dead or kidnapped or whatever. So anyway. A lot of things happened back in the old days. Traders would even bring stuff to the train tracks, and they would pile it up by the side of the train, and the train would stop. And they would all get on, and they'd get on all with all their stuff. I loved my trains most of all because it was like we were like a family together. It was like going through the prairie. And you stop at the sheep herder spot, and like he has all his sheep or all his whatever, and we load them all up, load them up. They would get up on the train because usually in the old days we would do 2-part cars. We'd have the passengers, and then we'd also have the freight. So they would load up on all the freight, and then all the kids, the whole family would jump on and get on, and they would all pay their tickets, and they would take their sheep to the stock market, where you sell the stock, and then they would share the sheared sheep or whatever. So, anyway, there's I love the old days. I miss the old days really a lot.